Hi, and welcome to another episode of Hot Takes with me, the Silver Fox. Now, we all know that the senior echelon of the SNP always talk the usual blather about openness, transparency, honesty. They want to tell you everything, but sometimes the rules mean that they can't, and all that rubbish. Well, we know it's rubbish now. It's officially rubbish. It's legally rubbish. As they have attempted to squirm and hide and cover up, the courts have decided that enough is enough and has called them out on it and has said that what they are doing is wrong. They are not open and transparent. They are the opposite of open and transparent. And they're getting a dressing down, as it were, from senior legal figures in Scotland's justice system. Senior judges are now saying, "You're liars. You are not an open and transparent government. You are a seedy, snidey, sleek-it, secretive bunch of shady charlatans." It's not the words they actually used, but I don't think that they're inaccurate in my use of them. But we'll take a look at the story, see how bad it is, and see why this government really isn't an open and transparent government. And that is now a legally approved message. Can say it. Here goes. So, the courts hand a brutal ruling to the SNP amid the Nicola Sturgeon Freedom of Information Transparency row. People wanting to know information, and the SNP government said, "Oh no, we can't possibly give you that information because invents reason." Real reason, of course, being it would be awful if the truth came out. Nobody must know how terrible this woman is. Nobody must know the awful things she's getting up to. Nobody must know any crimes that may have been committed by this evil, awful woman. No. So we'll just invent some technical reason for not releasing information that should have been released. Because, hey, it's much better to lie and cover up than it is to admit the truth. That's the SNP way, though, isn't it? SNP ministers have been told by a panel of senior judges that they attempted to avoid being an open and transparent government in a severe dressing gown for the government. I think I just said dressing gown, didn't I? Severe dressing down for the government. SNP ministers attempted to put up a technical barrier that would have defeated open and transparent government. This is according to the panel of senior judges who made the scathing ruling at the inner house of the Court of Session, Scotland's leading court. It's the highest court in Scotland, and when the highest court in Scotland is telling you off, you best listen. To do otherwise would be contempt of the highest court. That can carry some very severe penalties. Anyway, this was following efforts to conceal key findings in an investigation into Nicola Sturgeon in 2019. The Scottish Government was told their reasoning behind withholding evidence gathered during the investigation into a breach of the ministerial code was not valid. That's a separate court case earlier this month, and we covered the actual court case on that. The session heard how the government lawyer argued that ministers did not hold the information requested. However, in their most recent statement, judges said there should be no scope for the introduction of technicalities and unnecessarily legal concepts calculated to overcomplicate matters. He added ministers' arguments defeat the objective of open and transparent government. They can't be open and transparent. People knew the truth. First of all, half of them would go to jail. Secondly, people would just give up on them. Even their own supporters, if their own supporters knew half of the shady shit they're getting up to, even half their own supporters would abandon them. Remember, this is the party that wants to sexualise 5-year-olds. And then when it was questioned about it, denied it. And then somehow, magically, someone who had access released the actual questionnaire that was sent out to 5-year-olds in schools, and where they wanted to know what the 5-year-olds felt like when they were touching themselves. This is the SNP. They're a bunch of pedos and pervs, and you still got all the voters voting for them, knowing they're pedos and pervs. So anyone, when you see them in the comments section, right, when you see the SNP supporters in the comments section, always know that no matter what they say, their comment, it's coming from a pedo and a perv and a predator, because that's all the party is. because that's who the party is. So their supporters must be the same. Anyway, in 2019, Miss Sturgeon referred herself to an independent advisor, James Hamilton, following concerns that she failed to record meetings and phone calls she had with her predecessor, Alex Salmond, and his former chief of staff, after he was the subject of complaints from 2 civil servants. Complaints that did not actually happen. They were false complaints, and I will suggest that they were put up to this, perhaps, possibly, allegedly by Sturgeon herself, because she wanted him out. Hamilton investigated and issued a report in March 2021 in which he determined Miss Sturgeon did not breach the code. Yes, very convenient that, isn't it? Mr Harrop asked Scottish ministers 2 weeks later to be provided with all the written evidence gathered by Mr Hamilton during his investigation. However, shortly after Mr Hamilton's findings were published in 2021, an FOI request to the government sought the publication of all evidence gathered by him. And the judges said such an approach would be liable to restrict the disclosure of information in ways that run counter to a clear legislative policy. And the ruling continued, whether information is or is not held by a public authority is fundamentally a question of fact. And sophisticated legal analysis of the meaning of the concept of holding information is neither necessary nor appropriate. In other words, what they were saying is, we want to know what information he's holding, and they say, well, he's not holding anything, we're holding it, so we can't release what he's holding because we've got it in our vaults, kind of thing. And they basically were using very strict interpretations and very strict uses of words and loopholes and connivance and snidiness to avoid releasing information which they knew would be damaging. What they call, it's prejudicial. Yeah, because the truth is prejudicial. Because the truth may expose people as criminals, eh? And that's why we don't want the truth coming out. It may prejudice them. Yeah, we can't tell the jury. Can't tell the jury the truth. They might come back and say she's guilty. Can't have that, can we? That's where they're at, these people. Anyway, it is clear, they said, from the decision that the Commissioner fully understood the law on what was intended by the concept of holding information, and that he correctly applied the law to the facts and the circumstances of the case. He recognised in particular that the issue did not revolve around an interpretation of the arrangements made for Mr Hamilton's independence from the Scottish Government, but turned instead on the narrow question of whether the information was held by the Scottish ministers. In other words, what they were saying is, we know the information exists, but because of the narrow confines of which you've asked the question, we are choosing a particularly narrow response to avoid releasing it. It goes on, there's a lot more legal jargon. I'm not going to go through that. The legal speak is, a bit dry, legal eagles and all that. But effectively, what they're saying is that the government is not open, it's not transparent, it is not doing the job for which it is intended, and that they are using any legal means, however tight and nefarious, to try and suppress information, and that in itself is against what they call the spirit of the law, which it is. Anyway, the Scottish ministers will now have to go back to the original Freedom of Information request and abide by transparency rules. This is what the judges have said. So the judges have now said that they must, by law, release all the relevant information, and if they do not, then they are in breach of the courts, and that can be jail. And it isn't the government, it is the individuals who breach contempt of court. So anyone who makes the decision not to release the information is in breach, and it is they that go to prison. Oh, joy. Wouldn't you love to see one or two of them behind the bars in clink, serving porridge, and not in a good way. I shall stop there, I shall round off, and we shall come up and finish the video. But it just goes to show that even now, it's legal. It's a legal decision that the SNP are a bunch of sleek-it, lying, cover-upping bastards. And there's nothing I can say, because it's true. Marvellous. Coming up. They slither and they squirm and they try to get away with everything they can rather than releasing information and telling the truth. Well, it doesn't cut it anymore. Now even the courts recognise that they are a dodgy organisation that will only tell the truth if they're absolutely forced to. Otherwise, you'll get nothing approaching the truth. They'll continually hide and cover up to cover up the worst aspects of what they do. But even their best aspects of what they do are pretty bad. So, God knows what they've covered up in the past. There's far more to come out. And come the next Labour government, there's got to be a full investigation into this one and see what else is coming out. And then get a lot of them jailed. Because I'm pretty sure there's a lot of shady, nefarious shit going down. We just never know about it. Anyway, I shall stop there. Thank you very much for watching. Do please hit the subscribe button, ring the bell, leave a like, leave a comment. Please share the video. And until next time, stay safe, stay well, and I will speak to you later. Bye.